All right, let us say hello to Joe Lauzon. As we confirmed on Friday night, he is set to face Donald Cerrone on April 30th. What a terrific piece of matchmaking, and always great to catch up once again with Joe Lauzon for a little New England on New England chat. Joe, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm ready. I'm excited.
Good. First off, how is the wintry weather? A blizzard in Massachusetts. First one in quite some time. How rough did it get in your neck of the woods?
It's been pretty miserable. So usually when we get like any kind of blizzard or winter storm, usually it's like thick, like heavy, wet snow, right? And that's like what we're pretty much accustomed to, right? And it's way worse for like telephone poles coming down and wires and things like that. But when you plow it, it kind of stays there. This was like a completely different storm. I like my entire life, I don't remember a storm like this where it's like very light and fluffy. So a plow would come by, would plow the road, and then within literally 10 or 15 minutes, all the wind has just blown it. It's all kind of normalized it, and you can't even tell the plow's been by at all. One end of my driveway was like 5 feet of snow. The other end of my driveway is like 3 inches of snow. It was just like bananas, like how different this snowstorm was than any other storm we've dealt with. A little weird.
So when you're like in your 50s and 60s and you're a grandfather, this will be your blizzard of 78.
Pretty much. I think so. I think that the blizzard of 78 problem was the fact that they got a lot of snow, but then I think it got a deep freeze right after the temperatures plunged. So a little bit similar, but yeah, this will be our blizzard of 78 for sure.
Outside of the snowstorms and blizzards, this is very exciting stuff, Joe, in regards to your fighting career. So I guess the first question I have is, how did this come together? Because you and I were both in Boston in October of 2019. You were in there for much more important reason than I was, but you weren't sure what your fighting future was going to look like after the submission went over Jonathan Pierce. And then Dana White said you made some sort of deal to retire after that fight. It seemed like there was some miscommunication there, but because you've been saying since then, like, if the right fight comes along, then I'll fight as long as the UFC wants me to fight. It seems as if everything has come together here. How did this all happen?
So like you said, I've had the same stance from the very beginning, right? Like I said before the fight, before the last fight, if the fight went well, I would be done, because that would have been 2 really bad fights in a row. I'd be done. But if the fight went well, then I think that leaves the door open. And then Dana said in the post fight, like, oh, Lauzon, Lauzon's done. That was his last one. And like, that was not the arrangement, right? That wasn't, I even sent him text messages after. I sent him screenshots because I mostly talked to him through text. I sent him screenshots of saying, if this was my last, if this one does not go well. So I've been in the same boat the entire time. Obviously, shortly after that fight was when all the COVID stuff ramped up, and I had no business, I had no interest whatsoever in trying to train for a fight that may or may not happen, right? It's like, if we're going to fight again, we're going to fight under the right circumstances. I wasn't going to go and fight, when everything was so crazy and bananas and everything else. Things are still a little bit crazy, but it's much more manageable. It's much better now. So this entire time I've been training. I've been doing all the things I'm supposed to do. Like I've been doing jiu-jitsu. I've been hitting mitts. I really wasn't sparring a whole lot because I just don't enjoy sparring. Like I don't think there's a reason to get hit in the head if you don't have to get hit in the head. But I've been doing everything. I've been grappling, I've been wrestling, I've been doing lifting, I've been doing all that stuff. So this entire time I've been training still, and I've kept an open mind about, like, okay, if the right fight comes up, like this time last year, Sean Shelby texted me and it was asking, what I was thinking. And I'm like, I'm still not ready to fight right now. Like it's still really crazy. Maybe like, July, August, something like that. I'd be down, let's talk then. And I didn't hear anything for a long time. And then back in like maybe October, November, I just texted, hey, Sean, look, I'm still interested in fighting. Like I'm still interested in fighting. Like I'm not pushing for it, but if you have the right fight for me, I would definitely do it. So then like 2 weeks ago now, he came to me and, wanted to know, hey, what do you think about fighting Cowboy Cerrone on March 5th? And I'm like, so I like the opponent. Like I think Cowboy and I have an awesome fight. We're both similar in age. We're both similar in experience. A little bit different skill set, but I think it's a fight that makes sense. For a long time we were kind of neck and neck on the leaderboard for bonuses and things like that. Like I think that's the kind of fight that makes sense. I said, like, I would fight Cowboy, but March 5th is too soon. Like if I'm going to do this again, I'm not going to do this on like 5 weeks notice. Like I want to have a legit thing. I'm like, but don't take this as me not wanting to fight. I do want to fight. I'm open to fighting, but not on 5 weeks notice. And he's like, well, Cowboy really wants to fight March 5th. I'm like, okay, well then I'm not your guy then. That's totally fine. But keep me in mind. I definitely don't take this as me not wanting to fight. I do want to fight. keep me in mind. And then a couple of days later, he comes back and says, okay, how about April 30th? And I'm like, much better. Let's do that. That is perfect. So I said that, I have to, if I was going to fight again, I had to like all three things. I had to like the location. I had to like the opponent. I had to like the date, right? If we didn't have all three, we weren't going to do it, right? So we still don't know the location. That's what everyone keeps asking me. Oh, where's it going to be? Where's it going to be? Like my phone is blowing up nonstop. Do you know where the fight's going to be? I don't know. The UFC doesn't know. At least they didn't know when I talked to them last. But it'll be somewhere in the United States, which is all I really cared about. So we're good. We'll see how it goes.
You obviously sent the text to Sean in October, November. You like you said, you've been thinking about getting back in there. Like you weren't closing the door if the right thing came along. Had you been getting any kind of itch though? Like just like, all right, I'm ready. Like I want to fight. What has that been like over these maybe the last 9-10 months for you?
So, I have like, all the best guys in New England come to my gym and train on Saturdays, right? So I get to train all these guys. I have, all the guys at my gym are doing great. Like they're getting ready for fights. Like I'm training with them more consistently, but I get to train with a whole lot of guys on Saturday. Right. And I really, really enjoy the training. Like I really enjoy, like I do well, everything goes good. It's good, so, and I don't feel old. I don't feel like, I don't feel like I'm old in years, but I understand I've had a lot of experience. I've had a lot of wear and tear and things like that, like a lot of injuries, things like that. So like, I need to be mindful of that and not train like I'm 22 years old. But I don't feel inadequate. I don't feel slow. I don't feel like, oh, these young kids are too much for me. It's like, that's not the case. I do great against them. So yeah, I mean, I have the itch. I think I'm always going to have the itch. I think even when it's definitely time for me to stop, I think I'm still going to want to fight. But I'll listen to my coaches. Before the last fight, my coaches were like very adamant that I had to make a whole bunch of changes, and we made all those changes for me to fight. And so I did that. And then my boxing coach, Steve Mays, was like, you know what? I didn't think this fight was going to go well, but I think he's like, it's not often, but occasionally, once or twice in my lifetime, I've been wrong. He's like, I think I was wrong. I think it was a little bit quick to say you shouldn't fight. So we're going to give it another shot. We'll see how this goes, and again, I'm in the same exact position that I was for my last fight. Is this going to be the last fight? Who knows? I'm not going to go and say, oh, this Cowboy and this is going to be my last fight. I'm all done. Like I don't think that's the case. I'm just we take it fight by fight. We'll see how it goes,
What did Steve and the rest of your coaches say when they found out it was Cowboy?
So everyone was kind of hit or miss. So one of my coaches was like, oh, this is the worst opponent. Why would we definitely don't want to fight that guy. And then we kind of talk about it a little bit, and like we kind of like it a little bit better. Like I think that Cowboy and I are kind of different, right? Cowboy's a slower starter. I'm a faster starter. Cowboy definitely has like more polished stand up. I have way less polished stand up, but awkwardly effective. So like it's definitely different. We're both similar in age, similar in experience, similar in wear and tear. I think in the last, since I had I've had 2 fights in like 4.5, 5 years, something like that. Right. So Cowboy's had a bunch, but he's taken a lot of wear and tear in the last 5 years. Maybe we didn't want to fight Cowboy 5 years ago, but now I think is a better matchup for us.
Is there anything that you've missed about fighting more frequently? You know what I mean? Like because you're so busy. You got the gym, you're at Lauzon MMA, you're coaching, you're being the husband, the dad, the family man, you're still training and the legendary sparring sessions on Saturday at your gym. You're just a very busy guy without having fights to prepare for. Is there anything you miss about being the active fight 2-3 times a year kind of UFC fighter?
Yes and no. I mean, it's nice to always have like this goal ahead of you. You're like, oh, we're going to get ready for this, or we're going to test ourselves against this person, and we're going to see how it goes. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Like, that's the way it goes. I've really enjoyed the last like 2 years, even though it was like pandemic and COVID and stuff like that. Like I've spent so much time with my kids. Like that's been awesome. Like I've spent so much time on my gym. My gym is doing way better than I ever had before. So I'm just go for computer science. Like I like having systems in place and making things follow a certain order and all that kind of stuff. So like, I like that order, of things. And I've been able to put a lot of time in on my gym and kind of get things kind of the way I wanted them to operate and run and things like that. So that part's been really, really awesome. The gym's doing great. I'm not fighting because I need money. Like that's not what the thing is. Like, I think sometimes the fighters, like they semi-retire and then they come back because they need money. And that's not the case here. But I just I didn't know, even when we got offered Cowboy, and I kept asking my coaches, I'm like, do you think I should fight or should I not fight? So like, it's not even a case of, oh, do we fight Cowboy or not? It's like, okay, do you think that me fighting is a mistake? Right. My last fight went so well. I fought in Boston. It was like a flawless fight. Fought Jonathan Pierce, who's really good. And I made him look really, really bad, and everyone's like, oh, but he's done great. He's done great since that fight. He was not a scrub. He was very good. I just made him look bad. So it's like, are we gonna, do we really want to try and catch fire a second time? Like, do we want to just, do we want to do this again? And everyone thought that, I could definitely, that this fight makes sense. And, if I want to do it, then we should do it, and I was kind of unsure, until we agreed we were going to do it. And now I'm like laser focused, there are guys that I was having, I don't have trouble with, but I have competitive roles, but I kind of let them work a little bit. I started catching guys more, more quickly. I kind of went from that kind of coach role to more of I'm going to smash everyone. Right. So same thing with strength conditioning workouts. Strength conditioning sucks. Right? When you have a goal, it sucks getting on that bike. It sucks hitting that treadmill, all that stuff. But as soon as you have an opponent, as soon as you have a fight, it's it still sucks. But it sucks a lot less because you're doing it for a reason. I'm not just riding the bike because for the hell of it, because oh, maybe I'm going to do something. Okay, now it's okay, I'm riding the bike because I'm fighting Cowboy. So it's a little bit more bearable.
What has been cool about all of this is it's not often, unless it's a big title fight or something, that a fight gets unanimously praised. And I feel this one has. It just seems perfect across the board. Have you noticed that as well? All positivity for this matchmaking.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think everyone's excited. I have people from my gym, I'm so torn. Cowboy's my favorite fighter. I think that's the way it goes. Pick a side. Remember who's going to choke you though next week. But yeah, no, I think the fight makes sense. I think the fight makes perfect sense. Will it end up being the last fight for Cowboy and I? Maybe, it could be, but I'm not gonna, oh, this is my last fight, I'm all done. I'm the same boat I am now as I was, 2 years ago when I fought. We'll see what happens and we'll take it as it goes. If it's the last fight, it's the last fight. If it's not, it's not. It doesn't matter. I didn't know how much I was gonna miss it until I wasn't doing it for a little bit. And then now, as soon as we were told, oh, you have a matchup and all this other stuff, it's you get all those butterflies and yes, let's do this again. So I'm excited for it.
How does your wife and the kids, how do they feel about this?
Wife is always super supportive. Anything I want to do, she's on board. She obviously doesn't want me to go and get, be a bloody mess and get kicked in the face and knocked out and all this other stuff. But she's super supportive. She's a superstar. Katie is she offer a course to all the other UFC, wives and girlfriends on how to act and be good in camp and stuff like that. She's a superstar. She's awesome. And my kids they don't really understand. They do, but they don't. My son Joey's 8. He kind of gets it, but he just I'm hey Joey, so I'm gonna fight. He's cool, good luck. doesn't really understand. Maybe we'll bring him the fight. Maybe we won't. I don't even know. We'll have to see where it is.
My first reaction to this fight, besides, oh my God, this is freaking awesome, is it's shocking that it hasn't happened yet. With the longevity of both of your careers, it's amazing that this fight has not happened, or it even was targeted according to reports or anything. Had you ever been approached about fighting Donald?
No, never. So there's I fought pretty much all the lightweights. I never fought Frankie, but all of your marquee guys, your guys have been around for a long time. I fought most of them, right? So, but no, it just never presented itself. And it was surprising because we were both, for so long, we were kind of both chasing the, the bonuses and all that kind of stuff. And, kind of battling back and forth a little bit. But no, it never came up.
What other names it would have gotten you to say yes? Because everything had a lineup, right? Location, such and such, and the opponent had to ring true. And Donald, obviously, that seemed like a name. Any other names stood out to you, or did you need to see it with your own eyes before you could make that determination?
I had to see it. I wasn't even thinking about Cowboy. Honestly, it's a fight that makes perfect sense at this point, but it wasn't even a fight I was thinking of. If I could look at the little Excel sheet Sean Shelby has and look at his roster, oh, that would be a good fight. That would be a good fight. That would be a good fight. I'm sure there's some on the roster, but I don't know. I have no idea.
So obviously we've seen what Donald's last couple of years have been haven't been great. It's hard to put yourself in his shoes, but do you feel like he's having sort of the same thought process to his fighting career where it's I'm not in any rush to fight, but you give me something that gets me excited, I'll fight. You know what I mean? And we haven't seen him in a little while. I feel like he's kind of in the same kind of mindset you're in? I don't know if you agree with that or not, or if you can even put yourself somewhat in his shoes.
I think Cowboy's a little more of an adrenaline junkie. You know what I mean? I'm completely fine sitting on my chair playing Xbox and going to the gym and teaching classes and hanging out with my kids, watching, Encanto and all these other movies like Bubble Guppies at 6 a.m. every day. I am completely content doing that. Right. I think Cowboy's a little bit more like adventurous, more of, he's a cowboy, he's a little more go. So, he's fought, like he has had a rough last couple of years, right? But he's fought killer after killer after killer. He's fought really, really good guys at 170, at 55. Like he's fought some killers. So it's not a case of like, oh, it's an easy fighter. Cowboys, he's all washed out. It's nothing like that. I just think that, he's fought some really, really hard guys. And I think that for all fighters, I think that wear and tear just kind of accumulates. I just think that, he probably doesn't take shots as well as he used to. I think any fighter, as you go on, like no one's chin gets better from getting hit, right? It doesn't, like it diminishes. So, so I think that helps me out a little bit. He's got great jiu-jitsu. It's not a case like, oh, take him down and it's easy. No, he's submit people off his back. He's got great jiu-jitsu. He's got good wrestling. He's fought everybody. There's not much I'm going to bring that he hasn't seen. So, but I'm excited for the opportunity. Like, I think it's one of those things where it's like every time, until the fight happens, you don't know how it's going to go. You know what I mean? Is it gonna go out there? Is he go out there and punch me in the head and knock me out like Clay Guida did? Or am I going to go out there and take him down and beat him up on the ground like I did against St. Pierce? Like, it's just, we never know what's going to happen, but Cowboy and I both have very, very exciting fights. It won't go to a decision. I'm sure it won't go to a decision. I'm sure it'll be, either I catch him early or he catches me late. So I just think it's an entertaining fight no matter how it goes down. I think that's pretty cool.
A lot has kind of changed in the UFC since you last fought, and it's coming a lot more to the forefront this year. There's been a lot of talk about fighter pay and everything, and Francis Ngannou had a lot of things looming ahead of his title fight with Cyril Gane. Now we're seeing freaking Jake Paul, of all people, trying to call attention to fighter pay and doing rap disses and all this crazy stuff that these youngsters try to do. What have you made of these conversations as of late? Because it's everywhere now.
So it's always hard. I'm always looked at as like, I think anti-fighter and like pro UFC, right? Because I think the UFC does a very good job. I've never had a bad interaction with the UFC ever in regards to anything, right? Like I've always had, tons of respect for them. They've always been super respectful to me. Everything's always been great. Does everyone want to get paid more for their job? 1,000%, right? But I think that like someone could be a very good fighter, but if you're on like an undercard, even though you have a very good skill set, you're a very good fighter, right? Like you're worth what you can demand, right? And if you're a good fighter, it doesn't matter if you have a great skill set and you can beat all these other guys, right? You cannot demand this money when there's other people that will do that job for the same amount, right? So it's like, it's kind of like how many people are going to tune in because, how many people are buying, ESPN Fight Pass or ESPN Plus or Fight Pass because so-and-so is fighting on an undercard fight, right? Not many, right? So like probably a couple friends are going to fight in, they're going to tune in, but there's not a whole lot of demand there because it takes time to build a name, So, so I always want the fighters to make more money, but at the same time, you got to kind of keep in mind, okay, it's like the draw is generally the UFC brand, right? There's been a lot of other fighters that have gone elsewhere and, sometimes they say that they're making better money. Sometimes they say it's not been as good or hasn't been as polished and this and that. Like there's always gonna be pros and cons, right? But for me, it's like I've always had a great relationship with the UFC. They've always treated me like, super. I have nothing bad to say about them. I think that I can totally understand how like the UFC can be a little bit iron fisted, with when it comes to like negotiations and stuff like that. But like that's their job. Like the fighter's gonna do the same thing. He's gonna have a heavy hand on things too. So it's like both sides are gonna, negotiate and fight to the best of their ability in the ring and in contract negotiations and stuff like that. And they're gonna use whatever assets and tools they have. Like if you don't want to fight with the UFC, then I suggest you don't fight with the UFC. If you're not prepared to fight with the UFC, don't fight with the UFC. And I think that's just kind of what it comes down to. You know what I mean? Like if I have a little 2-pound dog and I have a 90-pound pit bull, right, which is the UFC, I would not encourage the 2-pound dog to go and get that dog bone that you're entitled to. It's like, maybe you need to understand kind of what's going on here and understand kind of how it all is, And I think a lot of people look at me as like being like anti-fighter, and like, I'm not anti-fighter. Like, of course, I want all the fighters to make more money. Like, I would love it for the UFC to do like like lifelong health insurance for anyone that's had X number of fights, 10 fights, 12 fights, 15 fights, whatever it's going to be. Like I would love to have all that stuff. Right. But like, if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense, and, so there's always going to be, headlines of fighters, pushing back, whether it's Mark Hunt or whoever else, pushing back on things, but it's the nature of it. I'm of the mindset, I'm not going to pick a fight I don't want to get into.
Right. And I think you're looking at it from a realistic point of view. You're not anti-fighter. It's just, it's the way life is, because the answer to the question is not you. Like, if I ask you what you think of this and you're like, oh, the UFC sucks and Francis Ngannou is right, and I'm supporting him and I have his back. Like, it does nothing unless you and 500 other guys join you in that discussion. Like, everybody's got to come together for the same thing. And you're right. When we have title fights and one guy says no, but another guy will come in for half the price and take the fight, like, it's never going to work. So I'm curious, we talked about 50, 60-year-old Joe Lauzon telling stories about the blizzard of 2022, your blizzard of 78. Do you think we'll ever see a day where fighters do come together to form some sort of unit, an association, something where they can collectively bargain, where they can, maybe get a bigger piece of the pie, like you see in Major League Baseball, the NBA, et cetera? Do you ever think we will ever see that day?
I don't think so. Francis Ngannou is fighting the UFC, right? He's not fighting to get the undercard fighters more money. He's fighting to get himself more money, right? That's just the way it goes. Francis Ngannou is like, oh, like, I have done this. I won the title. I have done this. I want more money for me. He's not saying, oh, I want more money for all these other guys. So it's like, it's a very kind of selfish kind of stand when people kind of, take on this and they fight for it and they argue. And, it's like, it's never like, oh, everyone needs to get paid more. Like, there's a couple people that will do that, but it's never like the guys near the top. It's always the people that, generally it's the people that like, they tried to make it up in the UFC and maybe they got to the UFC, but they didn't do well. And then on their way out, now they're complaining about it after the fact. It's the guys that have done very, very well have generally not been those guys. Like, a guy like a Tito Ortiz, like, he was a champ for a long time. He was a great fighter, but Tito was never arguing to get more money for the undercard fighters. He was always arguing to get more money for himself. Like, it's always been that way. Like, it's the guys that get to the top, they're always fighting for more money for themselves. So like, they're not going to get a lot of support there. Right. If they were arguing for the undercard fighters and trying to get more across the board, I think they have a lot more support and a lot more people who kind of, rally behind them. And I just don't think that's ever going to happen. I think it's going to be like for if you're Francis, you're like, okay, like I'm not worried about these guys. I'm worried about me. I got to protect my family first. I'm looking out for my family before I worry about, everyone else, which is, and I understand that point of view. I totally understand that. Like, I'm the same way. I'm looking out for my family. I'm not working for everyone else. I'm looking out for my family. So, that's just the way it goes. That's just life, right? It's like that's how it goes for everyone,
Yeah, it's a super interesting story. And now he like isn't obligated to fight at all for the UFC anymore. He could just sit out the rest of the year and go off. At least what they say. I think there's going to be a fight after the fight, if you will.
I think that there's a clause in every contract, back to like before my first fight in the UFC, like UFC 63, that if you were a champion, then the contract is extended for X number of time or something like that. There's some kind of clause or something like that. So I don't think that he's free and clear. I think that if he had lost and he was not the champion, then yes, I think he would be free and clear. But I think that anyone that is a reigning champ, they cannot walk away and go wherever they want, And what will happen is if he starts this fight, Randy Couture said on something, I saw the quote on Reddit, was saying that, it's going to get dragged out and legal, and it's just going to be like held up. Okay, how many years is Francis Ngannou going to fight for? The UFC will drag this out for 10 years. Until Francis is no longer like in a prime fighting age. It's how much money is he going to lose in that 10 years trying to fight for someone else. Whereas if he should just go along with the UFC and fight for the UFC and make what he can with the UFC, it's like, it's the nature of the contracts. And like every fighter, like they get you when you sign the contracts. So like when you're like having your first fight in the UFC, Francis Ngannou wasn't Francis Ngannou before his first fight in the UFC. Like he won a whole bunch of fights and he did well, and the UFC built him up, and now he's like this monster superstar. And that's just the nature of it. If he didn't want to sign that contract, he wouldn't be making the money he's making now. It's just like people kind of, I think that they forget about how strong the UFC brand is and how well they get it. Like they get you early, so when you don't have a lot of room to push back, and then as time goes on, like now they have you, and that's just how it goes. And they built your name up. Like Francis Ngannou would not have been a huge name without the UFC. So that's how that goes.
course, we're talking superstars. There could be tomorrow's superstars coming out of Lauzon MMA. Always a lot of up-and-coming talents coming out of that gym. We talked about the Saturday sparring. That is a thing of legend in New England. I know there's some New England regional events coming up. CES got one. Cage Titans got one. Do we have any Lauzon fighters getting ready? Some prospects about to get back in there?
Yep. So I got 2 fighters on. Cage Titans is coming weekend. So I have Aaron Johnson, Andrew Valdina. They both have tough fights, hard fights. So they're both in this card. I have Connor Matthews on CES next month, which I do commentary for CES. That'll be good and a little weird. I'll be doing commentary on Fight Pass for CES. Like, Connor needs to do here is he needs to post on his left hand. So that's always fun. It's kind of like, it sucks a little bit not being able to, honestly, I don't love it when putting my guys on CES because I'm doing commentary for them and I can't corner for them, so it's kind of like counterintuitive a little bit. But so we got both those fights in. I think K-Shan is doing another show in late March, and then Combat Zone has a show coming up, and there's all kinds of shows. Like, we have a great local scene here in New England. Absolutely.
And of course, last thing, Tom Brady is retired. It's official now. He's his own words.
Official. I thought I heard about that in the gym this morning. I was playing Xbox last night. One of my buddies was saying that like Tom Brady was supposed to get like a bonus of like $15 million in like 3 days. So it's like, oh, he's just going to wait till he gets his bonus and he's retired then. Like, that would have been the smart move. I'm sure he went to them like, hey, look, guys, you're going to owe me 15 million in 3 days. How about you just give me 7 right now and we call it a day and I'll retire now. So I don't know. But I'm excited. I'm hoping he comes back and signs back as a Patriot, so he can retire a Patriot. I think it was super cool that he went to a different team and won a Super Bowl right away. But he's a Patriot, through and through. So like, I'm hoping that happens. We'll see what happens though.
A lot of people are giving him crap because he made this like 9 slide Instagram retirement. He didn't mention the Patriots at all. It was all Bucks, my wife, and that's it. No Patriots.
Well, I'm sure he's still under contract with the Bucks. They probably have something in their clause and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure there's some kind of thing about not disparaging the team and you're a Buccaneer now, you're not a Patriot now, and all sort of stuff. I'm sure. I have a feeling we'll see something a little different later on.
I would agree with you. Joe, you've given me a lot of time. I appreciate it very much. Really looking forward to April 30th. Joe Lauzon versus Donald Cerrone. What a fight that's going to be. Not sure whether it's going to be the final fight of Joe Lauzon's career, but we'll see how it goes. So I appreciate the time very much, my man. All the best to you getting ready for the fight.
Sounds good. Thank you.